My name is John Hartnett. I'm CEO and founder of SVG Ventures. We're an innovation and investment platform based here in Silicon Valley, and we're focused on the agri-food tech sector. Our Thrive Accelerator is the #1 agri-food accelerator in the world. We work with over 2,000 startups from 90 countries. We've done this for 5 years and graduated 5 cohorts around the world. And those startups have created almost $750 million in value. We also work with major corporations, almost 40 corporations and over 5,000 farmers. We then work with our investment side where we select companies. We're obviously looking for great teams, great technologies, and we run major global events around the world focusing on agri-food and technology that's solving those problems. And these are key agri-food events that are bringing our ecosystem together, our corporations, our farmers, our investors and startups.
We like the idea of Thrive and its ability to really take an incubated idea and build it into a business.
Really impressed by SVG and John and what the team does in a way that's different than some others. You know, it's a true, I think, purpose-driven strategy about, moving the ag-food tech world forward across the world.
People have great ideas around the world, and what they've done a really nice job of is convince these folks, one, to come and interact with us, two, to listen to our problems so they can then adopt and adapt their technology or their solution to our problems. And it's going to make change and improvement and sustainability move ahead much more quickly for our industry. And so Thrive helps bridge that gap between the know-how in Silicon Valley and the application here with growers in the Salinas Valley and growers around the world.
To a large degree, they can have access to a lot more of the startups than we do, and we like how they're able to sift through and sort of find the best of the best. We already have partnerships with 1 or 2 of the companies to get them demoed in the field.
We've been working with Thrive for a couple of years, and we've just really been impressed with the ecosystem that they've built. Their global reach, the quality of innovators and entrepreneurs, the investors that come, the industry partners. This is really a terrific long-term partnership that we're excited to support.
It is really something that you couldn't get on your own as a startup. There's just no way you could facilitate that type of networking and that type of opportunity without someone like Thrive, and I think they just do it best.
Welcome everybody to the Thrive Top 50 live stream, and I hope everybody is healthy and safe. We're here in California in lockdown, here on our own here in the office at the moment, and I hope you're all safe at home. Unfortunately, we had to postpone our Thrive Innovation Summit. It was going to be on today, and we've moved it out to late September. And we'll do that in partnership with Forbes Media. I think as we've all seen, the current pandemic has really affected all our lives, our families, our businesses, and we've all experienced firsthand the critical importance of the food supply chain, and importantly, the people that work within that, which is many of us and you here today. And never has it been more important to improve the future of food and agriculture. Today, we'll share with you the Thrive Top 50 AgTech and the Thrive Top 50 Food Tech growth stage companies that are making a significant impact to the world population, our health, and the planet, and for future generations to come. So, next slide. We'll run through the overview of our presentation today. Give you a little bit of background on Thrive, and also maybe just back one slide. I'd like to just let you know our Twitter handle is at Thrive AgTech, and my Twitter handle is CJ Hartnett if people want to tweet out about the program and activities today. And also, if you need any more information about what we're doing today, please email me here. My email is on the page here. So next slide. The main things that we focus on the Thrive Innovation and Investment Platform is really working with our major corporate partners on an annual basis, identifying key technologies, not just early stage, but growth stage startups. And we work with over 4,000 startups. We also run SVG Ventures, where we have a portfolio of over 53 companies worldwide, and we're currently in our fundraising for Fund 3, and we do various different special purpose vehicles, SPVs, with many of our corporate partners today. Our ecosystem is a key element of how we bring people together in the community, and we're delighted to work with Forbes for the last 7 years, working on both the Thrive California event in Salinas and also the Thrive Midwest event, which is with Forbes in Indianapolis. We do a Smart Agri-Food Summit in the EU and do a Thrive EU challenge there. And also we do our own growth stage focus in Silicon Valley. This year, for the first year, we ran our Thrive Australia challenge just last month, and we held that ahead of the Evoke conference. So really we're reaching a really global audience in what we do. Next slide. Our Corporate Innovation Program is a 12-month program. As I'd mentioned to you, we work with various different corporations, providing various different research and analysis across the industry, doing various different private showcases and workshops with our corporate partners. And we also lead investment and run our accelerator program for our early stage companies. And as I mentioned, we do our global events. Next slide is really kind of the scope of what we've done. As I mentioned, we've about 4,000 startups. Our accelerator was identified as the #1 accelerator in the agri-food sector last year. And you know, many of the companies that have come through that, have created a combined market cap of about $750 million. And then obviously we're going to focus on our growth stage companies today, which is separate, you know, to that. Next slide. We were honored this year. We've been working with the highest levels in government. Secretary Perdue invited us to do a fireside chat and focus on innovation. We're delighted to see that the USDA have a mission this year to drive innovation as a key imperative for the country. This is obviously a really opportune time to really be driving this. And you know, these are pretty lofty goals: to increase US agriculture production by 40% by 2050, cutting the environmental footprint by half by 2050, and then also reduce food loss and waste by 50%. This started in 2010, and by 2030, they're hoping to reduce the way we deal with food in the supply chain. And then obviously enhance soil sequestration. Next slide. We're in the middle of our Thrive 6 cohort right now. I think we're in our 4th week. We have been running this. We ran our seed camp, fortunately, before the outbreak and pandemic hit. We were delighted to be able to bring our startups from Australia, from India, from Canada, Portugal, and obviously from across the US and Chile. So we've got some great companies this year. It was a tough cut to bring these 13 companies together. We had over 560 applications for our Thrive 6 program. Next slide. Our corporate partners who are involved with us in terms of our accelerator program, and also the selection of our Thrive Top 50, many of them have been involved, recommended some of these companies that we'll go through today in our top 50, and also have been key supporters of the Thrive platform over the course of the last number of years. And I'd like to thank them for that support, you know, today. Next slide. I think many of you understand the challenges that we're dealing with worldwide, and you know, there's no better time to be focused on improving the supply chain and driving the health of the planet and the population. And you know, these are the lofty goals that we have in terms of what we face in the future. The next slide. Our consumers, you know, today have not just increased in population, but more importantly, they're demanding more from the food supply chain. They're demanding more in terms of the health of the planet. And over 50% of today's population is millennial and Gen Z, which are really kind of changing the dynamics of our supply chain. Next slide.
in the US, and this is pretty much around the world, US consumers are really demanding trust, and quality and health and sustainability are important factors. It's no longer just taste of food. It's all these key factors that consumers are making, their buying, decisions. And likewise, again, in today's environment, health comes number one and trumps everything in terms of what we do. Next slide. Today, we're going to focus on our Thrive Top 50 Food Tech and our Thrive Top 50 AgTech. That's 100 companies in total. Our obviously big news with this is that, in the past, we focused very much on our Thrive Top 50 AgTech, and now we're expanding this to having our Thrive Top 50 Food Tech, which is really post-harvest supply chain and key novel or new ingredients that are driving change in the food supply chain. It's not restaurants or it's not delivery services. It's very much focused on the post-harvest supply chain and the new ingredient areas. Next slide. How do we select these companies? What we're focused on is very much the AgTech and Food Tech scope of the supply chain. We're focused on private pre-IPO companies, so companies that have IPO'd, we take them off this list because our focus is around the growing and scaling startups that are disrupting our businesses and improving the supply chain. Typically, they're Series A and beyond. They have a technology that is proven, it's in market, and they have significant traction, in terms of what they're doing in the field or in the supply chain. And then also they have an established founding team with a great track record. Next slide. These processes we ran in parallel, identifying these top 50 companies on both sides. There's over 5,500 companies that we analyzed over the course of the last 6 months, going through that, and obviously kind of working closely with our corporate partners, identifying kind of the key winners and top companies there. Next slide. So, this is the supply chain that we all live on and depend on. And, delighted to say that, these, top 50 companies are really making impact at every stage of the supply chain, whether it's in the field, right through to the consumer. You can see that, companies, whether it's on the biotechnology side, livestock, at the CPG and retail level, supply chain traceability, food safety, which, as many of us know, is a key priority and a key challenge, in the industry today, and right across the entire supply chain. So these are the companies that are leading the way. These are the top companies that are making those biggest impacts, in those areas of the supply chain. Next slide. Looking at this in a different way, we've taken those same companies and looked at them in terms of the level of investment that has been made into these companies. So as you can see on the top of the pyramid here, these are companies that have received over $500 million in investment and above. So you can see there's 4 key companies here that are at that level, and so on from 250 to 500 million. You're seeing FBN, Plenty, AeroFarms, there, and then from 150 to 500, you're seeing the next 6 companies. And as you can see, the vast majority of companies are in the range of from 0 to about 150 million. So a significant number, but also a strong number that is growing through these investment levels. Next slide. So let me take you through the Thrive Top 50. This is the book that we produced, the research and analysis that we've done, and we've worked with Forbes on the and Forbes Live on the publication of this. Next slide. This is what you're going to see in the book. I just want to give you an example. There's table of contents there in terms of the Thrive platform, the innovation imperative, which I mentioned about the USDA, and then various different articles on some of the key areas. And then we have a one-pager, so you can see, for example, with the likes of Indigo, kind of just shows you a little bit in terms of where the company is focused, products and services, number of employees, their valuation, total investment raised to date, and some of the key leadership on the team, as well as some of the key achievements and progress that the company has made. So you're going to have 100 pages of those for each of those companies. And I'd also like to thank our team who has been working diligently at home, producing our booklets here, but also kind of working through this research and making this webinar possible today. Next slide. So when we look at the AgTech area, very clearly the investment dollars to date, you can see biotechnology is still very significantly ahead, and obviously some of those companies that I'd mentioned earlier, like Indigo and Ginkgo Bioworks and Zimmergen, are some of the main ones that are driving this. I think, as we've seen in the last year and a half, controlled environment ag or vertical farming has really come into its own in terms of becoming a reality and delivering product, and also having to scale with the investment behind them. And then right across the board, we've kind of seen the investment from a data analytics AI perspective, robotics, automation, IoT, software and hardware. So just to kind of give you a sense of where the investment dollars to date are going for these top 50 in the AgTech area. Next slide. It's just another way of looking at where the top 50 are. There's 18 of those companies in the biotech area, 12 on the IoT, software, hardware, area. I won't go through all the slide, but you can see exactly, where those are and where the focus of them in terms of the problem areas addressed. What we try to focus on as part of this analysis is not just kind of give you, 100 plus companies and talk about the technology, but we're really trying to focus on what are the problems these companies are solving, and then also where are they in the supply chain, and also the additional information with regard to, their investment and their traction. Next slide. Again, another way to looking at these, you can see that about 20% of them are Series A. Many of them are, you got 50% between Series B and C, and then, they're again moving through the whole full series on the way to IPO. I would suspect, God willing, with this current pandemic, we will see some IPOs maybe in the next 12 months with some of this list that are there. And it's very much a global footprint. We've seen obviously a strong majority of the companies that are registered in the US, but we do notice that a lot of these companies that are, even though they're registered in the US, they may have been founded originally from outside of the US, and they have established US headquarters or operations here. And then, we've seen obviously Israel and, Canada have been very strong in terms of companies that are coming through this area as well. Next slide. So just on the biotechnology side, I'll just go through a little bit of each of the areas. As you can see, the companies that are receiving the vast majority of the investment here are on the top 3, but obviously, you can see the spread of investment across all the various different companies across the biotech space here. Next slide. On the controlled environment agriculture, this is not a long list of every company, but it's really kind of the top ones that we've identified, and this just shows you the level of investment that has been made to date in these companies. So you can see somebody like Plenty has received over 400 million in investment to date, and as you know, backed by the Vision Fund, and our friends from Finisterre were early investors there as well. Next slide. Data analytics and AI. again, this has been an area that there's a significant number of companies that are in this space, and it's become quite a crowded space. But you can see the companies that have made the most traction and received the most investment here. Obviously, we're very familiar with FBN and the team there, and their investment dollars is significantly above the others that are here in this category. Next slide. On the IoT software and hardware side, again, this is a pretty busy area as well. There's a significant number of companies across here, but you're starting to kind of see some companies, pull away a little bit in terms of and establishing kind of some real traction, here. And this is the top companies across this space. Next slide. On the robotics automation side, this is obviously very much focused on the harvest and in-field area. On the food tech side, we've other robotics automation side on that list, but you can see the companies here that are receiving most of the investment. Delighted to see FarmWise, which was a graduate from Thrive a couple of years ago, starting to kind of get some real traction there. So congratulations to them. Next slide. So now maybe I'll just move into the food tech area. Again, these are companies that are focused on post-harvest supply chain and kind of key and novel ingredients. And next slide, we'll kind of go through this. So in terms of the dollars and the investment in this category, as you can see, biotech is still the strongest area with $2.1 billion invested in this space, and no surprise to anybody. Somebody like Impossible is at the top of that list, and then as you can see, the various different areas from food technology at about 740 million. Data analytics, AI at about 700 million, IoT software, hardware 200, and robotics automation around 130, and packaging tech you can see about 83 million. And you can see the top 10 companies that are in this space today. Next slide. Again, looking at the Thrive top 50 food tech numbers, 21 of those companies are either novel foods or ingredients. 99 of those companies are on the environmental impact and waste side, and 7 on the food quality side. And then you can see obviously the problems that they're addressing, very similar in terms of that overlap there. Next slide. Again, on the food tech area, the stages, again, pretty much all Series A and beyond, 30% Series B, 14% Series C, and so on. Again, you can see the mix of companies. Obviously, it seems to be a very strong representation from the US, with 70% more so than in the AgTech side, and Israel obviously very strong in terms of this category, here as well. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Ireland in the closely behind there as well. So next slide. So again, just looking at kind of the food technology area, or the companies on the new ingredient side or preservation side. These are the companies that have received the more significant level of investment, with just Ripple, Appeal Sciences, there. Next slide. So this is these are the companies on the data analytics and AI side for the food tech area. Again, you can kind of see the key players there that are driving innovation here. Next slide. And then obviously on the biotechnology side, it's you can see how far ahead Impossible are and the investment that they have received. I think more recently they announced a significant additional investment, but again, a company, as you can imagine, on the cusp of an IPO. Next slide. This just shows you some of the companies, both on the packaging side and you know, presenting product to customers. Obviously, Farmer's Edge is more like a vending you know solution. But again, just kind of showing you the companies that are innovating in this space. Next slide. IoT software, hardware, robotics, again, supply chain, you know, driven. You see Produce Bay, Bossa Nova, Soft Robotics, Telesense on this IoT software side here. And next slide. So this is the overall, you know, list of companies that are innovating across the supply chain. And obviously, from our point of view, it's incredible to see those companies doing what they're doing. I want to congratulate those companies in terms of the progress that they've made with their technologies, with their scaling of their companies, and also in terms of how they're improving the planet. You know, again, you know, this is a phenomenal industry to be involved in. We're going through very serious challenges right now, but you know, many of the folks that we work with are still on these essential supply chains, providing food to every home around the world. And now more than ever have we seen how important that is. And, you know, I think our greater purpose in this industry, we're definitely making an impact in people's lives, our health, and obviously the planet. And it's you know, it's a great industry and a great area to be improving on. My last slide. If you want to find out more in terms of this analysis and also the PDF of the booklets, you can download the PDFs you know, today, and you'll get both the food tech and the AgTech booklets, and the analysis is within those. We do obviously custom analysis for our corporate partners, so there's additional corporate analysis further in this that we work directly with our corporate partners, you know, here as well. And again, if you'd like to tweet out about these companies, about the top 50, here's our Twitter handle. So maybe in wrapping up, I'd like to thank everybody for attending today. This is a challenging time for all of us, for our families. And I think it's obviously important for us to try and continue to obviously support the supply chain, but also continue in terms of you know, our businesses and trying to make an impact further here. Hopefully we see a resolution or some flattening of the curve, as they say, in the coming weeks. And I wish everybody well. I hope that you're doing okay, and I hope to see you hopefully all soon. Our Thrive Summit and the Forbes AgTech Summit will hopefully be on in end of last week of September. We'll send you the details, you know, of that, and I hope that we'll all be able to be there and celebrate the success of these Thrive Top 50 companies, and give them the recognition and awards which we would have liked to have done today. So we've got some beautiful awards for all these companies in terms of recognizing their success to date. So finally, I'd like to say farewell, and look forward to meeting you and being in touch over the next you know, few weeks. And stay safe and stay healthy, everybody. Thank you.